Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
I feel like the Boeing astronauts right now with these headphones on right now.
I know. I didn't plan my hair for the headphones.
Nor did I, but we don't usually use headphones, so
No.
I guess that makes sense. But there's a reason why we're using headphones.
There's a good reason.
There's a good reason. We have the incredible host of the Morbid podcast, Ash and Alaina, joining us today.
Hello. That always happens to us, and we're always like, ugh.
Every time.
Very red rum. We love to see it. I mean, again, on brand. So I obviously huge fan of the pod. I feel like there's some cross section in general with true crime. Like, we're obviously not a true crime show, but we know, like, at the end of the year when people were doing their Spotify Wrapped and, you know, tagging us and whatever, saw lots of your guys' podcast. So I'm assuming that we have a lot of listeners right now that are kicking their feet and really excited.
Yes, we saw tons of crossover with you guys too.
Yeah.
So this is perfect.
I mean, we're also like huge Bravo heads. So we talk about, you know, Bravo all the time. So that brings in the people who have watched the shows that you guys have been on. So I think it's like a perfect crossover.
Definitely.
Welcome to Disrespectfully
With Katie Maloney.
and Dana Cathan.
Unapologetically.
We're here to do what we want to do.
Spilling the tea.
Babe, you're going to see the power of women, like, disrespectfully. I feel like maybe I've told this story before, but so my best friend Raleigh is like your guys' #1 fan. And when she falls asleep to true crime every single night. So I was staying over to her house one time and we're like falling asleep and we were listening to your guys' show. And then you're like, yeah. And then it was on the Disrespectfully podcast with Katie and Dana, the basement. And her and I in uniform sat up and went, I was like, oh my
What was it about?
They were talking about the basement. I can't remember what
Like
we were.
putting someone in the basement, maybe.
We were probably talking about someone and I listened to your guys' show. So I was like, oh, we need to put them in the basement like Katie and Dana say. I love that.
I can't remember specifically who it was, but I personally loved it. I was honored that you guys mentioned the basement.
Hell yeah. We love that people are coming around to basement behavior. Not in a good way,
Hell
but
yeah.
like they're becoming more aware.
Yes.
you
More
gotta be.
opposed to basement behavior.
Yes.
The basement behavior it's a passion of ours, I would say, of getting the word out there and a way to describe what we hate.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's been our
Because it
personal
really is like a
contribution.
perfect way to describe when someone just sucks so hard.
Yeah, like a
You're
basement
like,
dweller.
where do we put them?
The basement.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously.
My friend Sarah is who introduced me to that a few years ago. And then before the show was a concept, and we said it on like one of the first episodes kind of as a jokey joke. And then now it's just become a thing. So kind of the pillar of the show. But anyway, enough about us. I mean, again, I'm sure many people who are listening know who you are, but I want to know about the start of your show in general. Like, how did Morbid come to be? Tell me the origin story.
We have just always, we're aunt and niece technically, but we like consider each other sisters. So we were always hanging out. Elena's always been in.
Yeah,
We're aunt and niece, yeah.
Wait, who's aunt?
She's aunt, I'm
Okay.
niece.
Oh,
There's
okay.
10 years between us.
But you can't
Oh.
tell, right?
No,
Obviously.
that's so fun.
It's the youthfulness here.
Yeah. But yeah, Elena's always been into like super weird shit. She just kind of molded me into this little weirdo. And we were always watching like documentaries, true crime documentaries, weird history documentaries. And she is was an autopsy technician. And I was a hairstylist. So she was like, what if we start a podcast and, you know, talk about all this weird shit since we're talking about it all the time anyway? And that was 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
now. Yeah. It was supposed to just be like a little hobby, like a way for us to just like hang out more. And then it turned into this.
Yeah. We were like, maybe our family will listen.
Literally.
Ash, did you ever go in and cut any corpse's hair, or like would you guys work together in that way?
No.
No crossover there.
No
We didn't-
crossover
We
there.
didn't collab yet.
No collabs. Oh my gosh, autopsy like. So
Yeah.
would you be cutting open bodies and?
Yeah, tell me
Yeah.
like how you, because I imagine that's different than like the mortuaries, all the like to get them ready for burial or
Embalming,
embalming.
Yeah.
So you were doing the just like what had happened here.
Yes, exactly. And like taking things out to do research, like tissue, organs,
Brains.
a lot of brains removed, a lot of, full eviscerations, taking out spinal cords, taking out spinal columns,
Jesus.
So
all that crazy
how
stuff.
does one get into that? Like growing up, were you like, I really like organs.
I want to work with dead bodies.
Yeah, I want to take them apart and look at things. Like what was the trajectory of that for you?
Weirdly, I was always that kind of kid who was like, I want to take things apart and look at it to figure out what's going on here. And I was always into like horror and like scary stories. And that evolved into like the true crime part of life and like kind of finding out about like weird history. And I was super into like Jack the Ripper, like what was going on there. And that was shocking to me even when I was younger and probably shouldn't have known what was going on there, that somebody could do what he did in the dark with like no quote unquote no medical background. So those kind of things always shocked me. And I was always looking like, taking out library books to look stuff up more. And I found out that the one thing that I was always drawn to in these stories was what the forensic pathologist or the medical examiner was doing and what their role in this whole thing was. And so I immediately was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a doctor, or I want to do this part of it. And I started taking the classes in college. I took pre-med. I took a lot of bio classes, a lot of chemistry. And then I kind of like just decided, because, I ended up having twins. So that like derailed a little bit the pre-med track for me, because it was
bring
just
the
a lot.
twins to the autopsies, or
No, weirdly enough.
not a kid-friendly role.
It strangely no, but I wanted to do this part of it, and I was like, okay, I know I'm not going to be able to do the full medical track where I'm going to go to medical school and everything. I knew what my time was, so I was like, you know what? How can I still be involved in this whole thing, because it still fascinates me? So I like bugged this research doctor who was like the head of pathology somewhere, and I just like annoyed him until he let me come in.
You're persistent.
I am. I'm very persistent. If I want something, I'm just going to annoy you until I get it. And it's worked out, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But he just kind of was like, all right, you can come in. We can work on some research project together, get you like in this world, get you understanding what it's all about. And we kind of forged this bond that way. And then he was like, all right, I think you're ready to come into the morgue. And I was like, hell yeah, I am.
Do you remember like what it was like when you saw your like the first like dead body? Did you?
Yes.
Were you like, hell yeah? Were you like, oh, wait a minute?
It was like a mix. Like it was,
Okay.
Yeah, I
I
could
was
see that.
fascinated. Like I remember they brought me in and all the different techs were telling me, this is the stool that we need you to sit on if you feel like you're going to faint. Here's the sink that you can vomit in. This one, please don't, because we use this for that. And I was like, and as I'm going in, I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna? Because then I was thinking,
You psych yourself
is
out.
everything I've ever wanted to do just gonna come crashing down right now? Am I gonna walk in there and be like, I don't want to do this at all? And it's just like my whole life has been leading up to this. And I walked in and I remember just being absolutely fascinated and like, so I don't know if the term is like humbling or what, but you're just like, whoa. Like, it's just like, whoa, this is somebody's somebody here.
Like this person once like, walked around, made jokes, smiled, cried.
Yep.
Like, they were once a full like human, and now they're just lifeless.
Has anyone ever made jokes to you on the table that you were about to do an autopsy on, or is that just
My God.
they still lifeless?
That's really just it. Honestly, the one thing that I will say like will really get you in one of these, it's like you get to the point where you kind of look at it and it's like, okay, this is clinical and we need to do our job here. But it was always when somebody would have like their nails painted or their hair done a certain way. I was like, you painted your nails not knowing that that's it. Like that's your nails are painted that color forever. It just like that would always hit me a different way. And that's when I would come back to reality and be like, oh, this is somebody's like somebody who is cared about and is a human and painted their nails or braided their hair.
Like one last time.
Yeah. It's like, I think it gives you a really different perspective on life and it gave me a different perspective on true crime as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think because before I would read it and be fascinated by it, but I think working with people who have died gives you a different look at it. And you're like, oh, this is a person.
Yeah.
I want to put a pin in that because I want to hear the correlation between true crime for you and then having that job. But Ash, I'm curious in terms of your origin story because of hairstylist. Are you still doing hair?
I do it like here and there on the side, but I don't work at a salon anymore or anything like that.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So for you, was it Alaina that just completely molded you because she's 10 years older and you guys were so close and then she made you a weirdo? Because my origin story, I'm a weirdo because my mom, I so relate to that. When I was like 5, I was watching Dateline regularly, 48 hours,
Same.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Forensic Files.
A 5-year-old Bluey could never. I was not a Bluey kind of kid, okay? So
Yes.
I'm curious for you, was it something that she introduced you to or had you had your own experience? Like what was your situation?
Honestly, I feel like Alaina is the majority of the reason why I'm into like creepier things and true crime in general. My mom also was super into, like you were just saying your mom was, like Forensic Files, Dateline, crazy ass Lifetime movies. So I definitely was molded into that a little bit, but I've always enjoyed it too. But I'm a Gemini, so I feel like I have the duality of like loving that darker, creepier side, but then like going to work to make people pretty.
Yeah, totally. In terms of, I feel like the culture in general, like true crime was a buzzword and like everyone was obsessed with it and whatnot. And I do feel like people have been a lot more respectful in the way that they tell stories. And I really like the way that you guys do. And also, like you were just saying, like someone had painted nails, like this was someone's loved one, whatever. Do you feel like that job served you in that way and informed how you show up when you're telling other people's stories?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because I think we can even see it in the podcast, our evolution of how we like told the story and how we approached it and how we researched it. It's like, which I think it's like you should always be growing in this kind of job. Like you should always be evolving and making it better and being open to making it better. And I think working there more really started turning the way that I looked at things.
Yeah.
And I guess hopefully it's for the better, because we always want to be telling these stories, especially from like the victim's perspective, way more than from the bad guy or gal's perspective.
That's been huge for us, just trying to make the victim the center of the story, because a lot of times it gets turned on its head and the killer or whoever did the horrible thing to this person becomes the highlighted person in the story. And we never wanted that to be the way that we went about our show.
But I had fallen victim to that myself when I was consuming true crime before the podcast, where I would listen to things that had to do more about like, what's this bad guy and what's he all about? And then I realized I was doing that and I was like, oh shit, we have the chance to kind of start turning this with the tides, and we should.
In terms of that job, you're the one who's trying to figure out what happened when you're doing an autopsy. So like when people would come in, did you immediately know that something nefarious had happened? Like how many of the cases that you were working through were you like, oh, something bad happened here?
Well, and that's what's interesting, because I worked mostly with like accidental or natural deaths. So every once in a while we would have somebody who'd come in, and we'd be working with a pathologist and we'd get the sense like something's off here. And it's amazing what you can tell by looking at somebody's, unfortunately someone's dead body, what kind of life was happening here, what kind of environment they were in, what could have possibly been going on. Unfortunately, we did have like a couple of kids that was the case, that it was like, wait a second, I think this needs to be transferred to the ME's office kind of thing. Like maybe they need to take a look at this. Those are the ones that always really stuck with me, was like something different, especially the kids. It was like when something different was going on and you had to make that call to the ME to be like, I think you guys need to take this over. That always was the one that would stick around.
Like what would they be? Like what kind of like examples?
We had some like babies that would end up, it would be like, oh, this is an accidental thing and we don't know what happened. And then you'd find some things on that baby's body that you were like, something else is happening here.
I don't think I'm built for that.
No, it's tough. Those were the toughest ones. Like everyone was tough, but the kids were the ones that, especially after I had kids, it was like, it became almost impossible at that point.
I could imagine, because you would put yourself like in that position.
Yeah, I would immediately see my babies. And I was like, oh.
I think everyone has an empathetic bone in their body. So, but you have to like really kind of compartmentalize those parts of you probably when you're just trying to do your job, that like you're not trying to like
absolutely
connect too much to it. But it's like that's so like you're human. That's like a human condition to like want to feel for an individual and you
need to connect. It's like it's a fine line you have to walk between shutting it off but not shutting it completely off, because you don't want to just be like, swipe, swipe, swipe. Let's just cut this person open. And like, so it's a hard line to walk to make sure you're considering that this is a human, but also looking at it clinically enough that you can separate enough to do the job at hand. And it takes practice, weirdly enough. The more you do it, the more you realize.
Do you know what I wish I was wearing today? HoneyLove. I mom jeaned a little too close to the sun, and these really bunch up and everything happens.
Yeah, sometimes you just want that like compression, that like snatched feeling, even if it's just wearing jeans, honestly.
You want to feel hot.
Yeah.
HoneyLove does that.
HoneyLove does do that.
I haven't been hugged in so long, and they, feel like a nice hug.
Listen, New Year's resolutions don't have to be painful. Sometimes they can be fun and something you actually want to keep, like saying goodbye to uncomfortable shapewear for good.
Feeling squeezed and squished is so 2024. 2025 is for HoneyLove. Today's episode is, in fact, brought to you by HoneyLove, the brand that's completely reimagined shapewear.
HoneyLove uses targeted compression to sculpt and smooth where you want it and ease off where you don't. That means that it's super effective and comfortable to wear all day long.
It's shapewear that works with your body, not against it. The difference, you'll feel it, you'll see it immediately. Plus, flexible boning on the side seams prevents it from rolling up or down. That's always a nightmare with shapewear. So you'll never have to sneakily adjust yourself in public. It's like a oblique wedgie. You don't want to be doing that. Even after a night of dancing, which, we love to dance.
And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can get HoneyLove on sale. Save 20% off your entire order with our exclusive link. It's honeylove.com/disrespectfully. Support the show and start your year off right by checking them out at honeylove.com/disrespectfully.
HoneyLove's best-selling Superpower short is the go-to. It has targeted compression technology that distinguishes between areas where you want more support and areas where you need a little less compression. Their signature X targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves because we want to keep the curves but suck in the things we don't. It's designed to work with your body, not against it.
Ladies, we've all been there, struggling to take off a tight piece of shapewear with a bathroom line out the door. You're sweating, your cortisol levels are spiking. No one wants that.
No.
This super power short has a 100% cotton gusset, so you can skip the extra undies. What's another layer under there? Plus, it has a convenient opening in the panty area for super easy bathroom. No costume change required.
The Super Short is also a booty lifter. Boost bands on the back of the thigh give your bottom that amazing shape.
And HoneyLove isn't just about shapewear. They also have unbelievably comfortable bras. HoneyLove's best-selling crossover bra gives all the support of traditional bras without using any underwires. For you, Dana.
Yeah, it sure is. I was going to say only one I'll wear.
This is one bra you'll actually enjoy wearing and won't want to take off.
Treat yourself to the most comfortable shapewear on earth and save 20% off site-wide at honeylove.com/disrespectfully. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off honeylove.com/disrespectfully.
After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Start the new year with confidence thanks to HoneyLove.
Last year, Katie inspired me to put more effort into what I wear every day. Again, my legging drawer is more dusty than it's ever been. It's great.
Wow.
It's amazing how much better you feel when you just put a few minutes into an outfit.
I have been telling you that, and I am so proud. With a new year comes a new opportunity to reimagine ourselves and, more importantly, our wardrobes. This year, refresh your look with Quince.
I should clarify that just because I've retired my leggings drawer doesn't mean I've had to sacrifice comfort. Quince's cozy Mongolian cashmere sweaters look beautiful and elevated while still being insanely cozy. Like a nice combo.
Yeah, exactly. If part of your New Year's resolution is being more active, there's no better workout motivation than some new activewear. Their moisture-wicking bras and leggings are designed to move with you during your workout.
However you choose to refresh your look this year, all Quince pieces are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
They're able to do that by partnering directly with top factories, cutting out the cost of the middleman, and passing the savings directly onto you.
Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, which it's so important because that is lacking in the world today. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxe feeling in every piece.
I wore my responsible down long puffer jacket from Quince while I was in Nashville because it was snowing. And it was so cute and kept me so warm.
They also have great accessories. I'm still obsessed with my new sunglasses from Quince.
Ooh, I love it.
I got some really cute earrings there too. Love them.
Upgrade your closet this year without the upgraded price tag. Go to quince.com/disrespectfully for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order.
That's QUINCE.com/disrespectfully to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disrespectfully. Well, and Morbid isn't all true crime. We have multiple things. And I know that you guys have some really interesting stories about your own hauntings growing up. And I don't know enough about it. So we're big paranormal people here. I'm like, People are like, what is your show about? And I was like, I don't know. Sometimes relationships, sometimes aliens, sometimes ghosts, sometimes cryptids. We just don't know.
Yeah.
You check all the boxes.
Hell yeah.
Tell us about your paranormal experiences because we know that you have quite a few.
We have so many. I think it all started in the house that we grew up in.
Yeah, we grew up in
first.
Yeah, you grew up first. we grew up in like a super old house. It was like an old farmhouse. Pretty sure the original owner and I think a couple of people died in that house.
Yeah.
So it was already going, trending in that direction.
It was like very early 1900s.
Yeah.
I think like 1915 it was built.
Like right out the gate. It was like, I think some shit's going to go down in this house.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we all would hear, me and my siblings, my parents would also hear it, is work boots, like a person in work boots walking up and down the stairs, the basement stairs.
Like at all hours of the night.
Enough that my dad would go to check, obviously, to make sure nobody was in the house. And there was never anybody in the house. So you would go back upstairs, literally lay down and turn your light off. And it would be like, dun, dun, dun. And like they were just walking up and down. And I think one night, one of my siblings yelled, like, can you please stop? And
like you're scared. And she said, you're scaring me.
Yeah, she said, you're scaring me. Can you please stop? And it stopped.
Really? Completely?
Yeah, completely stopped.
The thing about the hauntings at that house, so it's Alaina's parents' house, my grandparents. I ended up moving in when I was like 13, I think. But the thing was, creepy things would happen, but if you would say something, it would definitely let up. Like, I don't think the spirits were like completely malevolent. Yeah. I think they fucked with you sometimes just to, scare you. But as soon as it seemed like it was getting too far, they'd kind of pull back.
Most of them.
We love an obedient ghost.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's nice. They're just here for a good time. They're not trying to freak anyone out.
There's one room, though, in that house that nothing backs off.
No.
And you had the super creepy experience there.
Yeah. It was the primary bedroom of the farmhouse. And so that always had the most stuff that would go down. And it was all stuff that was like a little over, like it just had a yucky feeling to it in there. And it turned into like my mom's art studio when like all my siblings moved out. And you had to walk by it to go to the computer room because we had a computer room. And TBT.
My story, my first time I was touched by a ghost was in pursuit of the computer room. Everyone it's like
always.
Ghosts in computer rooms.
They hand in hand.
Yes.
And this was I was on my way to the computer room and I walked by that door and the door was shut to the what was now the studio. And as I walked by it, it sounded like somebody either took both their fists and slammed it against the door or threw something against the door. It was so loud. I backed up against the wall. It was so loud.
Didn't Papa come running?
He came running out and was like, what the hell just happened? Like, what'd you throw? I was like, I didn't know how to do anything. And he opened the door, looked in. Nothing was near the door. Nothing had fallen. Nothing had touched that door. And it scared the shit because it was such an aggressive hit. Again, and it wasn't like you could mistake it for anything. It was like a slam into that door. And I was like, all right, not going in there anymore.
I hate that room. To this day, I hate going in that room.
Ugh.
I feel like people who, because we've both had many paranormal experiences, always try to identify any logical cause. So it's like, you look at the door, who else was around? Like, is there anything I want to be the one for this to prove that this is not a ghost or an entity of any kind?
Yes.
And it always is.
You try to debunk it.
Yeah, you can't explain everything away. You just have I don't know. I'm more inclined to be like, it must have been a ghost, rather than trying to figure it out. I'm like, that'd have been a ghost. Well, I was talking about. I used to work for someone who did a lot of YouTube stuff, and it was a lot of in the kind of horror genre things. And he went and stayed at the Villisca axe murder house, and his main takeaway was just how difficult it was to be in there because the energy was so heavy and dark that he had to keep going outside because he was feeling physically ill.
Wow.
Oh, I can imagine.
I feel like a lot of people say that about that
specific house.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that there can be that type of energy that is just so heavy and dark that to the point that you would feel physically. I don't know. Some people are like, I have friends that are like, I want to see a ghost or I want a ghost experience, or they're just really hungry for that. I'm like, I don't think it's everything that you think it would be.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to that
lasting impression.
Yeah, we felt that in the Lizzie Borden house when we went to stay there.
I want to hear about that because and you went there twice?
Twice.
We stayed twice, yeah.
Okay, tell the story.
No. We got to get you guys over here to go to it. Because
I've only been to Salem once, and it was such an incredible town. And then we stayed not far, like maybe 30 minutes in Gloucester.
Gloucester.
Yeah. Thank you. I
None of the towns here make sense.
Gloucester. And stunning. And but like that whole section of the country is just like, it's so cool. But like, we got to go to Salem.
Well, I've never been, and obviously it's like that. Did I invent that place in my brain? I need to be there. So we have talked about it. So
it'll change.
We should try this coming fall, winter, or whatever, like to get over there. But yeah, we need to know all. And actually, would you mind explaining for the listeners, because you guys know more about it than we do, what the Lizzie Borden house is, and
who Lizzie Borden is,
Borden, and why you went and had a couple schnoozes there.
How did we get it super into that? I feel like if you grow up in Massachusetts, it's just like you're just into it. Like there's a rhyme that everybody grew up jump roping to, and it's Lizzie Borden had an axe, gave her father 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her mother 41. And we're all just like jump roping to that at like 9 years old.
That sounds like something I would have been rhyming as a child, so I feel like I missed it.
Oh, yeah.
And Lizzie, but it happened like way, in the
1800s.
Yeah, and it was
1800s.
I was going to say that, and it's in Fall River, Massachusetts. And Andrew Borden was this like super wealthy, merchant. He was living with his wife, who was not Lizzie's. It was Lizzie's stepmother. And one day, both of them were murdered. Andrew was murdered sitting, actually napping on the couch in the living room by a hatchet, like literally caved in his head. The crime scene photos of that are wild.
And they're just at the house.
They're just on display in the house.
They have them on display.
Yeah.
You're like, gnarly. I love your art. Did you get this at IKEA?
They're like, nah, this is original.
Yeah.
And the stepmother was killed in her bedroom. And there's also
she was folding laundry.
Yeah, she was like folding laundry, and she was also killed with what they think was a hatchet.
That's why I don't fold my laundry. That's why I just put it on that chair. You'll never have a risk of dying folding laundry if you just shove it on the chair,
Yeah. You will never die folding laundry if you just leave it alone. And they couldn't find who had done it, but immediately all suspicions went to Lizzie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that, all these theories came out, like Lizzie wanted the money or Lizzie hated her stepmother. There were these little, theories about how she might have tried to poison them a couple of days earlier because they all got sick after eating dinner, except for, I think Lizzie was the only one who didn't get sick.
And she had bought poison a few days prior.
So there's all these little things that when you look at that case, and we've covered it a couple of times now, but when you look at that case, you can argue both sides to the end. Like you can argue that Lizzie did it, and you can find 100 different things to go with that claim. And then if you go on the other side, 100 different things to debunk it as
There's
well.
a lot of weird stuff. Like she had an uncle that came into town, and it was Andrew's brother, and they had like a long-standing feud. And he only came into town for a really short amount of time. I think it was 3 days.
Yep.
And he left. He was supposed to come for more, and he left abruptly. And then they like couldn't find him after that.
Couldn't account for his time during the murders. So it's like there's many different things with it, but everyone, it was Lizzie who got railroaded for it. I mean, she moved into a different house when she was older called Maplecroft.
Yeah.
In Fall River as well. It's like this big, beautiful Victorian mansion. And she would have like kids showing up at her door and singing that song outside of her door. And it's like
it's little twerps.
Right. And
because she was acquitted. That's the thing.
She was acquitted. So, and imagine if she didn't do it. It's like both of her parents were killed in her house. And then she goes her whole life and little kids are yelling, a horrible rhyme at her.
Yeah. So how old was she at the time that happened? Do you know?
I think she was in her mid-20s.
Yeah, she was young.
She was technically like a spinster, though, I think.
So
I can look it up.
She might have been like 19 to early 20s, I think it was.
But young.
And then, definitely young. And she had an older sister, too, Emma, right?
She was 32.
Oh, so shit.
Oh.
So young.
Okay, well, by those standards, she was, ready to go out to pasture. But, that's the new 20. So we're just going to call it 20.
Exactly.
So what do you guys think happened? Like, looking over that evidence in an exhausting way, what do you think happened? Or do you think that she did it?
I go so back and forth. I think before I went to the house and like really dove into the case, I was like, oh, she definitely did it. Like totally. But now
it made you question.
It made you question. I definitely look at that uncle. Just the fact that his time can't be accounted for. He lied at one point and said he was somewhere, and then that didn't check out. Then there's like the maid. I don't think the maid did it, but
no.
There was something where she came into a great sum of money and just moved back to Ireland.
Yeah.
Which was really strange. And it was right around the time of the murders.
Yeah. And there's all like, Lizzie, I think she changed her clothes before the cops got there. And then they found her bloody clothes down in the basement, like in a well, essentially, like in a hole.
She said she had her
period. But then she was like, oh, I just had my period. And they were like, gross. We don't want to talk about that.
Don't talk to us about that.
Yeah. They're like, you're supposed to go in the woods when you have your period, not be seen.
Yeah, they were like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
You could go back and forth for hours trying to figure it out. It's fascinating.
I have about 5 cases now I want to ask you about. Katie's going to get mad at me.
I want to find out more about just your stay at the house, like what you experienced there.
So the first time we stayed was 2018, I think.
Probably.
2018, 2019.
So would you describe it as like an Airbnb or like a bed and breakfast?
It kind of is.
Okay. It's kind of like a mixture of both because you literally get breakfast the next day. Like the housekeeper makes breakfast for you.
Yeah.
And it's a bomb breakfast.
Or they did. They don't anymore.
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah, so they did the first time.
But does the housekeeper, does anyone actually live there, host the people that are coming? Or like you show up, the keys are in a lockbox, and you're on your own?
So there's a groundskeeper. The first time we stayed, there was a woman there who gave us a tour, like right off the bat.
They gave you the history, all the good stuff.
And she stayed on the property, not in the house, but on the property. And then it's under new ownership now. And the second time, it's just you.
They just said.
And actually, the second time, it was Alaina and I and our 2 friends, Corinne and Sabrina, the 2 Girls, One Ghost podcast. And we rented it out, like, just us. So it was just the 4 of us there.
Us in that house.
But the first time, there was a bunch of people. And it was literally during pretty much like a hurricane.
Oh, yeah. It was like a monsoon happened that night.
Oh, my God.
The lights were flickering.
Oh, yeah. And they left us lanterns. And they were like, if the power goes out, here's some lanterns. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And it was super creepy. People left at like 3:00 in the morning. There was people, I think they came from Nashville.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we're leaving. Like, we're going home. Like, we're super freaked out.
Was it more them freaking themselves out or were things actually happening?
A little bit of both, I think.
The Nashville people, like earlier, who you were describing when you're like, I have friends that are like, because same thing. I have friends that are like, oh, I want to see ghosts and whatever. And I'm like, take mine, go ahead. But I feel like it's those people that are like, I want to see ghosts. And then they go stay at Lizzie Borden's house and they're like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go back to Nashville. I'm going to go get some chicken wings and listen to some guitar.
Yep. Yeah. It has, that house though has, as soon as you walk in the front door, the heaviness hits you. Like that house has a heavy, heavy feel to it. Mainly, the one that really got us was the stepmother, Abby's room.
Abby's room is like, I actually felt sick in there. Yeah. I had to leave.
It has a weird vibe to it where you just stand there and you're like, I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like I want to pass out. Like and there's just so much history in there. And you sit in that living room and you're like, it literally happened here. Like, it's just weird to be like, that's where this crime scene happened, like where I'm sitting right now. And there is a lot of activity in that house because there's also these, there's a 3rd floor to it. And it's almost like an attic-y kind of thing, but there's rooms where like the maid, Bridget, used to stay. And there is children ghosts that are up there. And those ghosts are from the next door neighbor's house because the next door neighbor apparently, was probably going through severe postpartum psychosis, but obviously was not diagnosed back then and ended up drowning her children in a well on the property. And so those children are believed to be hanging out because they would hang out at that house sometimes, hanging out in the 3rd floor of the Lizzie Borden house. So the people who own the house have left a bunch of toys. People bring toys up there. They tell you, like, the kids love to play. You can go up there and talk to them, roll a ball, see if they'll roll it back and forth.
Did you do that?
We did. We went up there. It was when we were with Corinne and Sabrina.
Yeah, the second time.
We had, like, a REM pod with us, which is, like, the device that, if they touch it, the lights go off. If it comes through, like, by it, the lights will go off. And we had it in between all of us, and we were kind of, like, reading books and, playing with little balls and, like, just talking to them. And we had the little obelisk, too, that tells you what the ghost is saying. Mm-hmm. And you get some funny shit with that when it's just like, you're annoying, get out.
At one point it said we were annoying.
Yeah. And so we were sitting
there
there.
Are children here.
You're annoying.
Yep.
And at one point, we kept reading. We kept being like, we'll play with you. We're just here. We're not trying to hurt you. We don't want to, stress you out. And at one point, they said, "Are you friends?" And I was like, that's like a child. Like, that's a child, like, saying, "Are you friends?" And so we were like, "Yeah, we're friends. Like, we're your friends. We're not going to hurt you." And they said, "Do you want to play?" And we were like, "Yep, we want to play."
And as soon as we said, "Yeah, like, we'll play," the REM pod went off like crazy.
We have it on video. It's insane. Nobody's touching it. We're all standing there and we're like,
we're all just staring at each other like, holy shit.
And we sat and hung out with them for a little while. And before we were leaving, they said, what did they say?
They said, "Please don't leave.
Please don't leave." And we were like, oh my God.
We're like, we'll be back.
I was like, I swear, I'll come back. It was wild.
At one point, we were reading, this is so weird, but we were reading Goodnight Moon out loud. And it just said, like the REM pod said, or the Ovilus said moon.
Yeah, it just repeated it.
Oh, that's really cute.
They're so sweet.
It was really sweet. Right?
Then there's some not so cute ghosts downstairs in the basement. I forget how they said, I don't know if it was like a Ouija board. You can't do Ouija boards there anymore. That's a fun story.
We have very strong feelings about Ouija boards.
I don't think Ouija boards should ever be done, but like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree.
I had a horrifying experience when I was 16. I literally won't even be in the same room as one.
No.
Wow.
I won't do one. I never have, and I never will. And this one wants to fucking do them all the time.
I haven't done one for a long time, but I'm curious,
Have you ever seen Exorcist, Elaine? No, we're not playing with Ouija boards in 2025.
I know.
Have you? Oh, so continue. So
yeah, tell us
no Ouija boards, but downstairs.
So you can't use Ouija boards at the Lizzie Borden house because
you used to be able to.
When we first went, there was a bunch of Ouija boards, but it was just me and Alaina, so I was like, yeah, no. And the second time we went, and Alaina and our friend Sabrina wanted to do one, and we mentioned it, and they were like, "No, you can't do them here. We don't have them anymore." And it's because somebody stole one of the Ouija boards from the property, and they were like pissed, obviously. And then it came back a few weeks later. The housekeeper came, and it was on the front steps, and the Ouija board had a note on top of it that said, "What was it? Make it stop.
Please make it stop." That's what the note said, and they had left the Ouija board there.
Well, I imagine that the Ouija probably brought in a lot more spirit to the house as well. And like that Ouija just is haunted as well.
I think it's universally known, even from people that don't have ghosts. You don't take things from a haunted space ever. I was in Paris in October, and when we were doing the catacomb tour guide was saying that people, which by the way, so much bacteria and shit is on those bones. People try steal bones and then report back and I'm like, yeah, well, now you have a poltergeist on your hands.
Yeah.
So particularly a Ouija board, which in and of itself is a recipe for disaster. It's like basically a haunted Jumanji. Then you bring it to your home after you've stolen something. Like the only thing you could do is replace it. So I wonder if it fixed their problems after they brought it back.
I know, you wonder.
I know, nobody knows who it was.
You never steal anything from anywhere, really. But don't steal anything from a haunted location.
You're just asking for issues.
When we leave one, in fact, we always do like you can't come with me. I'm not inviting you with me. You need to stay here. Like we always say it out loud. Like you are not invited to come with me.
We do like a shake it off kind of dance.
Shake it all off. You get out of there.
God. Yeah.
Oh, like cleansing yourself and your energy, because also especially low vibrational energies and entities don't have power here, but the power they have is you thinking that they're scary or that they're invited. So you have to be strong and be like, no, hold your ground. But once you do, protect it.
Yeah,
exactly.
I know. There's a guy who he has a channel on YouTube where he does like paranormal, like he'll go into like old mental hospitals, like beautiful spaces and photograph it and do, the whole, it's like a paranormal
the whole shebang.
Ghost hunter vibe, But I asked him, I was like, do you have spirit that lives with you or that attaches to you? And he's like, yeah, I have so many roommates. It's ridiculous.
Oh my God. And he's just so chill about it.
He's like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, again, it takes a certain kind of person built to handle that. I don't know. I couldn't. I don't want to be anywhere near it, but
that would freak me out.
It's terrifying.
I actually thought of you last night. I saw a TikTok of a girl that's living in an abandoned hospital, not a mental hospital, an old medical facility, but I had so many questions because I was like, first of all, who's allowing that? Second of all, why is it abandoned? Whatever. But she's like doing a tour of how far it takes her to get like her pizza, like her DoorDash order, then to go back to her quarters.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, there's no way you're alone in there.
No.
And she like has to use a flashlight and stuff. Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah.
I hate that.
Girl, just live in a
the
van.
vibes.
Yeah.
Like the other types of people
that's
that
more
like
fun.
to live in the nomadic world.
Silly goose behavior. I think you're asking for trouble, personally.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
seen a ghost? An apparition?
I did when I was super little. Have you
Okay.
ever seen one?
I think I saw one at the Lizzie Borden house. Actually.
Oh, yeah.
What-
You go
Little boy.
first.
We were standing in Abby's room actually, and I didn't know what I had seen actually because we were standing there and we had somebody kind of giving us a tour. It was when the four of us came, and before she left, she gave us like a brief history of everything. And she's going over the whole thing, and I kind of felt weird. I was like, oh, I really don't like this room. And then I looked over to the doorway, and I swear to you, a kid looked around the doorway and then popped back, so much so that I like looked around, like, what was that? And I was like, is there like a cat or something in here? And she was like, oh, there's like a ghost cat in here. And I was like, I don't know if that was a cat or a kid, but something just looked around the doorway. And there
But it
was no
made
one
sense
else.
because we had already gone upstairs and like bonded with those kids a little bit. And I think they were like following
They were
us
like
throughout the
peeking in,
house.
being like, oh, I remember this part of the story.
Well, there's
Yeah.
that deductive reasoning again, though. You're like, is Mr. Whiskers? Are we sure? I
Yeah,
think the cat
like-
lives here. You're like, is it a cat? No, it's not. It was.
They're
it
a
was
flesh
Tommy.
and blood cat. Yeah,
It was little
it was, and
Billy.
I swear
It was.
I
It
saw
was Thomas, the town boy.
Sneaks in here every once in a
Yeah,
while.
he
It's
just
fine.
hangs out.
Don't worry about him.
Yeah, I saw a ghost, not at Lizzie Borden's,
No.
but when I was super little at the house we grew up in. My mom and I lived there for a little bit when I was probably like 5 or 6.
Mm.
And we shared a room with Alaina. So Elena's bed was on one side and then our bed was like on the way other side of the room. And I was sharing bed with my mom and I woke her up because I saw like this little boy and he looked like he was from another time period. He had on like those like plaid kind of like capri pants
Like
and then like
newsboy pants.
yeah, like super high socks and the little newspaper cap. And he was reading my mom's book. And I wasn't scared, but I was like, Mom, this kid's reading your book. Like, what the hell? So I woke her up. She's like, go back to sleep. I'm like, okay. And she woke up the next morning and the book was tucked in between like the closet and the dresser. And she had left it on top of the dresser.
Oh.
So she was like, I think you definitely saw what you said you did.
Wow. Why is
Yeah.
it that when you see ghosts, they always look like they're from a different time? You never see someone wearing like a crop top and like
I know.
a trucker
know.
hat. Like,
Yeah, and
it's
it's
always like someone that like
I would
looks-
love to see that.
right, but it's like do the new ghosts not do that like look at me kind of thing anymore? Is that
Yeah.
just like,
I think they ferment
a
and then
fashion?
come back because in
They
30
ferment.
years we're gonna come out in our wet seal apparel and
Yeah.
be freaking them out.
that's what I mean. No one with a chain bell and like a tiny
Yeah.
skinny scarf. I
Uh-uh.
don't see
Our
any of
time is
that.
coming.
No, they all look like they're the cast of the Peaky Blinders. Other than
Yes.
my like main ghost, the first ghost that I remember seeing, his name was Alex, and he was a little boy, and not too different than that. I would have pegged him more at like the 40s or 50s, but I'll never forget the first time I saw him, and he always was in the corner of my room, and I'd get up, and my mom later told me that after I was born, she would be like doing laundry. That's always the problem.
It's the
So she's like
laundry.
folding laundry and like me and my sister are napping and she would see things out of her peripheral and like turn and kind of write it off. And then we moved in this specific house where a few people had died that we didn't know about. And I kept waking up and seeing this little boy. And then all of a sudden like stuff started happening mostly to me and it was getting louder and louder and louder. And
Ugh.
one time I got home from school and my parents, it was like the crescendo of I kept telling my parents like something is here and they weren't believing me. And then they were out of town and they had like a friend come stay at night so I didn't throw parties. Very smart on their part because I would have.
Very smart.
So I was alone. I was, the last one to leave, first one to get home, whatever. And I got home from school one day and I was digging in my backpack and I was with my boyfriend and he walked in first and it was a Rambler, like a 1-story house. So you could see right when you turn left, the kitchen all the way to the laundry room. And he gasped and I looked up and every single cabinet and drawer was open and all the pots and pans were out on the like different surfaces. And
No.
we had a little pub table in the kitchen and the chairs were not floating, but they were tilted. So,
oh my
Oh.
god!
So, like, either
Why do
some-
I feel like I'm gonna cry?
So
oh my
freaks me
god!
out.
Like either this is the most elaborate prank that's ever happened, or I have a ghost. And then
Wait, that's a prank, not a ghost.
no, I was like, and so, but like all this,
Rationalizing.
and I kept seeing him. And then what did I do with my 16-year-old brain and my underdeveloped frontal lobe? Ouija board. I was like, you know
Yep.
what? I'm gonna get some friends
Yep.
in here and let's ask.
I would have done
questions.
the same thing.
Went
Oh my
horribly.
God.
Was a really traumatizing experience. Very lucky that I didn't get my first demon came in my late 20s. So that didn't, at least nothing happened besides that.
Holy shit.
But there were, again, the reason I'm telling this whole story. So one night I was laying with my mom watching, I think I've told this story in the pod, but watching TV. Her closet's next to the TV, and she had clothing containers that were like pushed back on the top shelf, and they just went from across and they opened because they hit so hard. And I sat up and looked at my mom, just like, because she had been not believing me for so long, and she was like, "Okay, there's something here." And I was like,
she's like, you know what?
Yeah,
it's time.
Yeah,
correct.
My mom has like had tons of experience where she gets touched by ghosts, or she will wake up with mysterious bruises. But like we're talking, like she goes to bed, wakes up on her inner thigh that it looks like a thumb, like in her like she's had scratches on her stomach.
Scary.
She has a lot of weird stuff that happens to me.
I
It's
don't
mostly
like
like
one.
like something that is so. I'm not talking like a lip liner. I'm talking like I come home, I'll put my keys like in a little bowl every single time. And I'll turn the house upside down, empty every purse, empty everything. And then next thing you know, they're in the bowl. Like,
I hate when
of course,
that happens.
So the things get like moved around, but it'll show up like the next day or like a day later. Like it stays gone for so long. And I'm like, what the? Yeah, that kind of stuff happened. But my brother's been touched and scratched by a ghost.
It's the touching.
Yeah, just I that stuff. I'm like, that is scary business to me. It's fine if you want to like flicker some lights.
Yeah. When it gets physical, it's like,
when it gets physical.
Yeah. The only other time I was touched was the mean old lady who had died in her house that we didn't know about, going to the computer room one night, and I could feel her, and I went like that, like put my hand out really fast, and nothing happened. So I paused and I started to walk, and she went like this with her nails from my right shoulder to my left, and it didn't hurt, but it was enough that she did it, and I fucking ran like I was training for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then the only other time I was touched was when I was attacked by an incubus, which was a really unfortunate situation. I had a little demon for like 6 months. It was horrible, but
not the band.
I just love how casually you dropped that. That time when I had an incubus.
So I was actually talking to Katie's mom right before all this started, and we were exchanging ghost stories. I hadn't talked about them in years because I do, like, in certain environments I won't talk about this stuff because I know it's there and I just don't want to give it energy. And then I put up cameras in my apartment, and I feel like it was like a challenge to what was there. And then all of a sudden the camera started picking stuff up, and then I was slowly getting attacked at night. And I was like, everyone was trying to convince me that I was dreaming, and I knew I wasn't dreaming. And then like one morning I woke up and I have a video of it, massive fire red handprint, giant handprint on my thigh, and I knew that it had happened the night before. So
holy shit.
Damn.
That's all kinds of fun stuff.
Just chill stuff.
Do you want to stay at the Lizzie Borden house when we go? I'd like to do that.
Absolutely not.
Katie said
you can just stay out all night.
Because I'm like, as much as you could say like, you can't come with me, stage do the whole thing, I still would be like, I don't know, man. I can't risk it. I feel like they'd want to come home with me.
Do it.
I'm down to go see it.
Well, next time I don't want to go, not to invite myself, but like, can I come with you guys? Also, I'm a huge fan of Two Girls, One Ghost. Please tell them. So like, we can all go together. We can have a kiki.
Yes.
That'd be so much fun. We never sleep when we go.
We just stay up. Do get any sleep? Probably not. Like, what are you supposed to do?
We don't even get into bed. We just walk around the whole night. Yeah. We take snack breaks.
We bring Red Bulls. Like, we're not sleeping.
And then at like 4:30 in the morning, we get out of there.
Raleigh's screaming, listening to this right now. That would be her dream. She
changing
would love
into
that.
PJs, brushing your teeth, and like curling into bed, and like
putting your pigtails in at night, and they like pull them up when you're trying to brush your teeth.
Yeah.
Hell no.
My one rule is no sleeping at haunted places because I just feel like you're too vulnerable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What if you live in a haunted place though? Because that was definitely like, I mean,
I know.
Then you're screwed.
I've lived in two haunted places in my life, and I also have sleeping problems, so it's probably connected. But
have y'all been to the Zach Baggins, the haunted museum?
No. We've talked about a few things that he has there.
Yeah, the doll, Annabelle. Yeah, like they have it behind like a glass or whatever. And I listened to this girl tell a story on TikTok about how she went and she was pregnant, but they hadn't told anyone yet. She was really, really early in her pregnancy, but they had brought her and her fiance or husband at the time brought like stones with them for protection, and so they bring the whole group into the room where the doll is, and they have the that machine that'll say what the spirit's saying and whatever. And and so this girl, like, she was feeling like kind of uneasy about the whole experience, and so she was trying to kind of hang back a little bit, not get too involved, not be a presence there. And the doll kept saying stones, or that the voice kept saying stones. Like, does anyone have stones on them? And she didn't want to say anything or speak up. She's like, I'm not trying to like get called on here.
Imagine if you were high, you had smoked before, and it's like stones.
Oh my God!
And you're like stone. Yeah, but then so as she was leaving, the person that was doing the tour was like, "Are these yours? Or these are?" It was her stones that were in her pocket that were on the ground. She's like, I don't know how. And then so they left. They both ended up feeling really nauseous and ill after the experience. But like,
no, I don't want to be talked to by Annabelle.
Yeah,
That's
not as much
something I want.
Interest in that.
Oh, but she did call her. I can't remember exactly what she did, but she did mention something about pregnancy, like baby or blah blah blah. Like,
shit.
Like, does anyone have a baby here? And no one raised their hand. They're
no.
Like, is anyone pregnant here? She didn't want to raise her hand because it was a private
Yeah.
thing. But the voice, the spirit was just like baby or something, basically called her out.
Her baby's just born with fire red pigtails, like comes out with like a little outfit on.
Yeah, that place
take
is
it back.
Take it back.
Full makeup.
Scary.
What is the name of
terrifying.
The Warrens, the Conjuring couple?
Oh, Ed and Lorraine.
Yeah. So Lorraine, I think, because I'm a big fan of MFM also, so I think that someone wrote a hometown in, and they had gone to the museum, but the museum, if you don't know, the Conjuring series is based off a real life couple, a lot of demonic stuff and whatnot. And the museum, they're like, do not touch anything, but if you do, please let us know. But it's this basically looks like an old garage of a person with lots of things, and the space is not big. I have no interest in my entire life. I'm accident prone. I'm demon prone. I am ghost prone.
Sometimes I just trip over my own foot.
Yeah, all the time.
And I gesture a lot. Yeah. So I feel like I would end up smacking something and be like, fuck.
So I don't have interest in that.
What happens if you touch something?
You are possessed, I think, or like it attaches to you. So that's the
immediate possession.
You're possessed.
Too risky. Who didn't Post Malone go to? I think he went to the Haunted Museum and he touched the box. What is it?
Oh, the Dybbuk box.
The Dybbuk box.
I always want to call it a Dookie box. It's a Dybbuk box. I always forget how to say it.
Dybbuk box.
That's amazing.
Yes. He touched it.
The Dybbuk box is scary.
Yeah.
What is the origin of that? I just know that it's serious shit.
I did a case on it so long ago. It dates way back to like I think the 1930s.
So long ago.
And it's like I think it dates back to like Germany too. So like scary.
Oh, not good stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
I've seen them also, or at least in lore of witches doing them. So it's like something that's really evil that's contained, and sometimes they're covered in wax, or again, saw a TikTok because it's all I do, of a family found one like buried in the walls of their home, and they opened it.
They opened it.
It was wax. It was so clearly, if something looks like it is not meant to be opened, do not touch it. Walk away. Don't open it.
The one in the museum what is it supposed to contain, or like what is the story of it?
I think it's like some kind of like, I think they contain like
it's like an evil
entity
spirit
or some kind of thing that can't be unleashed.
So it's not quite like a genie in the lamp. You don't want to rub that.
No, it's like the Fern Gully monster. That little oil tycoon that comes out of the tree when they cut down the forest.
Hexus. I had a weird crush on Hexus when I was little. Am I alone in that?
That's
Hexus
amazing.
is a
it was Tim Curry's voice,
out.
I think.
No, he's a hear me out. I'm like, Hexus is sexy.
We've had
such a hear me out.
We've had so many hear me outs of like, well, not serial killers, but
the Babadook.
The Babadook is a big hear me out.
That's amazing.
Honestly, I feel that Pinhead is one of my hear me outs.
That's a big hear me out for you. This girl loves Pinhead. He's here somewhere.
How would you make out though? Like it just feels like
carefully.
Well, and then I met the guy who plays Pinhead is Doug Bradley, and he's like one of the sweetest humans in the world, and his wife is like one of my favorite humans in the world. So I was like, wow, this is just amazing.
Like full circle moment.
Full circle.
I just think what's his face? Psycho.
Norman Bates.
Yeah, Norman Bates.
Yeah,
he's probably top of my list.
I could see that. Yeah,
I just don't even feel like he's as much of a hear me out. I feel like that would be a more common.
Okay, it's not a hear me out, but he's a killer. They're all hear me outs, dude.
Yeah,
that's true.
Or what was the guy from the Terrifier?
Oh, Art the Clown.
Art the Clown. I get that weirdly.
I get that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get that one actually.
He's very expressive. You know, I feel like he
is.
I feel like he can, you know.
And he's fun.
He has style, sort of.
Yeah, he has a sense of humor.
You know?
Yeah. We love a funny king. Yeah,
he's
just
love a funny king.
But also,
and he's tall.
Obviously gory and disgusting.
And he's tall. If that's your thing.
He's tall.
I
He's got the height.
I just like, you know, a man that can make me laugh.
Yeah,
and he does that for
Same.
sure.
Same.
That's art for you.
Do you both love horror films?
Yes.
Alaina loves them a little more than I do. I love horror to a degree. I don't love like a lot of body horror. Like I don't know if I could ever watch the Terrifier movies.
No, I don't think you could.
I think they're too much for me.
I mean, it's camp. If anything,
it is very camp.
But no, but it gets a lot after a while. You're like, okay, like you're literally chainsawing a man from ass to neck right now. Like,
and they linger on it for a long time.
I like the stupid ones. Like
if you can get past the fake blood of it all, like
it gets ridiculous.
It is so over the top. I enjoy it. Do you like gore horror, like killer movies, or do you like ghost horror? Because they're two different things.
I don't even know. I feel like I go like back and forth. I just like the stupid like
thriller
early 2000s.
Is more your
thriller.
You like Ash likes more of a thriller vibe to her horror, I would say.
Yeah, and I just love like the dumb early 2000s. Like I Know What You Did Last Summer. Yeah. Like I've Been Waiting for You is what we just covered on Scream. We have a horror movie podcast too.
Yeah.
So
I like both. I would say
you're into all horror.
Yeah, I like it all.
We recently watched It Follows, and to me that's one of the scariest movies because it just the anxiety.
My favorite. That is my favorite horror movie of all time. It's so good
in that movie, and the score, the musical score in that movie is like chef's kiss.
It's so good, and I love that you can't really tell what time period it is.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But just I like just the anxiety of like being followed nonstop, having to like. It attached, but I don't know. We were just like, how many people would you have to have sex with so it like never returns to you? Like you would just be living in constant fear the entire time.
Everyone has had that conversation after watching that too. You're like, what would you do?
Oh, we've seen it so many times, but we would not shut up when we were watching it the other night. We're like, well, but then if you had sex with this person, and then this person dies, then how do you keep blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, this is not real. Do you guys know that? Like we were really breaking it down, preparing for in case this ever happened to us.
Well, I know, but like I would want to know because the one guy, the guy that she first had sex with, he like doesn't take it seriously and he's like not on guard and then he dies almost instantly.
Well, that's the cardinal rule of scary movies. If you aren't believing in it or thinking it's not a BFD, you are first to go.
Yeah, take it seriously.
Yeah.
Overreact.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you guys are being such babies. I'll go check out the basement and then never returns.
Don't be that person.
Yep. Dead.
There's one like entity in that movie that I scared the shit.
The tall guy.
The tall guy.
When he like ducks to go in the bedroom.
He ducks to like walk really quickly into the bedroom. I was like, fuck that. Like I hated that so much.
For me, it's the lady that pees on the floor. That lady scares the shit out of me.
She peed for a
tall
long
guy for me.
time. And I pee a lot and I drink a lot of water and wine when it's not January. And I'm like, the amount of urine it just did not make sense, but that's what made it so hydrated. Awful.
The one, I think the girl, the first one that shows up after like they like sleep together and then he like has her strapped to the chair and then this like naked woman is just, oh my God. Why are they all naked?
They're so all horrifying.
Yeah.
I think the tall one really stayed with me though, because also the rest of them, they're just so slow in their gait and like how they walk.
And he just fast.
Ducked and was just in the room.
That's what got me is how fast he walked into that fucking room. I was like, what is happening?
Oh, I also hated the guy on the roof when they're like driving away and he's just like looming over them.
Yeah.
That was horrifying. I think I just hate them all.
Yeah, that movie really sticks with you.
I mean, we've recommended it several times in this pod. So if you're feeling left out right now, I need you to go ahead and clock in. Pause the podcast.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
It's so
Come
good.
back. You'll know
it's unique. I like a unique horror story.
Yeah. That's why I liked the Barbarian. I thought that was such a fun.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I haven't seen that one.
That's another really unique. Like you don't see that one every
day. Because I feel like you're kind of like, all right, this is the same recipe, this is the same blueprint, just different ghosts or different monsters, you know? But that one, they really took it and kind of turned it on its head. And it was also strange to see Bill Skarsgård as a person.
Hell yeah. You're like, whoa.
He's always the scary thing.
I just want you to know that Bill Skarsgård has a long-term partner. So I just found that out because I was Googling it because obviously I'm so delusional and I'm like, maybe I have a chance. No, I obviously don't have a chance. I was just like Googling him last night and was like,
I learned that fact a long time ago.
Honestly, we love a Skarsgård over here.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How do you feel about
Skarsgårds.
vampires? Do you believe that they exist?
I don't know. I want them to.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do.
I desperately want them to.
I feel very strongly about this because I don't know if you saw those like videos. There was like a trend for a minute where people, a lot in New Orleans, were talking about how they like, had encounters with vampires. And I'm like, that makes all the sense to me.
I believe them.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ever tell anyone they're lying.
Until I see otherwise.
Yeah.
I believe that they exist.
I can't disprove it, so.
They are the sexiest of all the scared people.
We had a whole thing about that
we
2 episodes ago.
We talked about Twilight, but I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, obviously, well, also, like, so cryptids. Okay, I know we're, like, getting to the end of our time, but I have, like, 4 important questions for you guys.
That's okay.
Hell yeah.
So, cryptids in general, how do you feel about the Appalachian Mountains? I want to know.
Absolutely terrified.
I
obsessed.
Love horror film, had all the ghosts. I have a high threshold for this kind of thing. And you could not pay me any amount of money to spend even a single moment in the Appalachian Mountains. So curious, like, what you think of cryptids, and do you believe the lore from that area?
Yes. We were just talking about this on an episode the other day. I saw a TikTok and it was in the Appalachian Mountains. And it's like those like faceless pale creatures that just kind of like wiggle back and forth at you and they'll like eat your soul.
You know those ones.
You know those. They were in like this guy's backyard and he was taking a video and it was not modified in any way. Like it was not edited.
Like,
I swear it was real. Like I'm putting the hammer down on this one. It's I'm terrified of them. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking they're in my room.
God, I would just be like, because you're not supposed to like respond or acknowledge if you hear a voice or your name being called. I would.
Actually, this has been.
I wouldn't last a minute.
So it wasn't in the Appalachian Mountains. It was in Studio City. But this happened to me not that long ago. And I never skip a TikTok about what not to do in the Appalachian Mountains, although I will never be there for the rest of my life.
I want to know. I want to be prepared.
Same.
Oh, I know.
Just in case.
What if you get abducted, dropped off in the Appalachians? You don't even know you're in the Appalachians. And then all of a sudden shit just starts going on.
You don't run. You don't acknowledge them. Okay. So I was in the shower, as all good horror things, the origin. So my mom passed away 12 years ago. I'm in the shower. I heard her like clear as day go, Dana.
Oh.
And I stopped and I opened my shower because I was like, it's like someone in my apartment, but I knew it was her voice. And it's
like a mimic.
I immediately opened the shower and was like, Mom, girl, she's dead. What are you, she's been gone. What are you talking about? But at the time it didn't even occur to me. That 100% had to have been a mimic. It was so
scary.
She had a really specific voice and like the inflection of how she would say my name when she got home. Like it was a mimic. There's no way it wasn't a mimic. And it did not even occur to me until I was on Appalachia TikTok a few months ago. And I was like, okay, so all your training is for nothing because you immediately were like, Mom.
Because you were like, hello?
Like a lot of the mimics.
It's just your natural response.
It's so hard to get to that point and then you fuck it up.
No, I'm like, a lot of people, when it's the mimic, it's their partner, right? Who like someone who's living and alive and with them. And I'm like, she gone. You know better. And I was just like, hello.
Yes.
But they drew on that like emotional part.
Yeah.
Where like your natural reaction is just to be like, yep. Like, that's my mom.
You saw a video the other day and it was the girl thought it was her mom. That fucked us
It was a TikTok video. And it was like somebody filming, but they were like banging on the door.
Oh, yeah, they were in a bathroom. And you could hear the voice on the other side.
And then it makes that like
it makes some weird like guttural sound, and I was like, no.
I have chills right now. I'm like freaked out.
I think some of this is for clickbait, but Ash, to your point, I feel like sometimes you can just tell that it's real and it's happening and so scary. Like
an amazing account that will show you all these things, and it's also funny, so it'll make you like terrified but also laugh. Is Latinos Against Spooky Shit. He's the funniest man.
That's a great
and he'll just be like, hello, Latinos Against Spooky Shit. Like, don't go in that room. Like, it's hilarious, but he finds the craziest videos of all this kind of like mimic shit and Appalachian shit.
Mimics get me.
Yeah.
That's
smash that follow button.
He's hilarious.
Yeah, I need to see the account. I saw there was these two sisters and they were filming. It was somewhere in Mexico and they were filming themselves and they were like just like getting ready for bed. And then all of a sudden, it sounded like there were 100 dogs right outside their house, and all these dogs started going insane, and they both went completely pale and looked at each other, and one grabbed for the phone. And I'm kicking myself right now. I can't remember the name of what it was, but obviously it was 3 a.m. So then I had to go on Reddit for an hour to like figure out what it was. And it's something in that area of where they live that it's known, and it has a name of this like demon type entity. And when all the animals go crazy, you go offline, lights off, quiet, don't acknowledge it. And yeah, it was, you could see that their reaction was real. Like they knew.
Yeah. When animals go crazy, it's like, no, I don't play.
That's why
whenever the animals are telling
whenever like Butter or one of my dogs like all of a sudden sits up and looks, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, don't do that.
I hate that. My cats do that all the time. I'm like, stop it.
Stop.
Yeah.
Well, Leo, when I had my demon, my old cat who's since passed away, but he would sleep with me like under my arm. And that's part of the reason I knew it was real, because he would get up, and when I couldn't move my body, but I knew it had entered the room. And then there was this like, I had a clock or something, so there was a light, and I could see it looked like this black mass, like not as specific as necessarily you would see in a scary movie, but you could see it. And when it moved past the clock, the light, because it was a thing, and he would follow it. I could not move, but I would watch him tracking it, and he would get up and he'd have the floof tail, and like I knew it was real.
They're unburdened by what we're burdened by, so that I feel like they just see everything. It's like them and kids.
Yeah.
Like they don't have the same kind of preconceived shit that we have.
I saw so much crazier stuff when I was a kid, and then all of a sudden I was afraid of it, and it just stopped one day.
Oh yeah, we told this on the podcast before. I have two things for
horrifying.
My kids. The skeleton one is pretty funny too.
Yeah, that one's funny.
It sounds funny. Tell us.
She must have been like 3 years old, I think, my youngest. She would wake up and she'd say, there's skeleton is in my room. And we were like, skeleton? Like, what does that mean? And we realized she was saying skeleton, but she was saying it like almost in like
kind of like French
with like a Louisiana way, almost like a Cajun way, like skeleton. And it was like had this little French to it. And we were like, who's skeleton? And she was like, oh, he just watches me. And we were like, where does he watch you? And she was like, right there. And she pointed to the top of her bookcase. And we were like, he just like, is he sitting on your bookcase? And she goes, he's laying on it like this.
She just like laid down and
just watch it. And I was like, is he scary? And she was like, no. And then she was like, his bones are brown. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she said, sometimes he leaves to go visit his family. And I was like, oh. And one night she said he left to go see his family and he never came back. So she was like, maybe he went to live with his family. And I was like, who the fuck was Skeleton?
That's not
even the scariest one.
No,
though.
that one was fun. Like that one was more like, I was like, I like Skeleton. Like, he sounds like a cool guy.
What was the scary? Tell us the other one.
So that's the fun one. My twins.
This one is fucked up.
We're starting with twins is scary. I'm already scared.
Yeah,
immediately.
Yeah, they were always scary, but we were living in a house that was built in 1860. So it was like a crazy old house in New England.
1860?
Yeah. And in New England. Like
that's old shit.
We're ticking off the boxes.
Oh, yeah.
And they were going in their first like toddler beds, like their first big girl beds. And we had them next to each other and the door was to their left. And all of a sudden, like, you know, we put them to bed. We're getting into bed later and they start yelling for us. And we're like, holy shit. So we run down the hallway and we're like, what's going on? And they're like, can you tell them to leave? And we were like, tell who to leave? And we were like, and one of my twins was like, there's people coming into the room and they're scaring me. And I was like, what people? Like, what are you talking about? And John's like, fuck this. Like, he was like,
John's like, this is on you, creepy one.
Yeah, he was like, I don't know how to deal with this. And she was like, I was like, what are they doing when they come in here? And she said, they have scissors and they're trying to cut my sheets. And I was like,
isn't that the scariest shit you've ever heard?
Fuck? And she was like young.
They were like 2, I think.
They were
like
super young,
3.
maybe 3, I think.
Yeah.
So for them to like come up with that scenario, I was like, what? And I was like, okay. And I was like, I don't know how to handle this. So I was like, okay, are they around right now? And she was like, they're right there. And she pointed to the doorway. And the doorway was right next to the attic door, which was like this old ass attic, obviously, that went up.
So creepy.
And you would open the door and walk up these creepy steps. And she said, they're right there. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, all right, how do I handle this? So I don't know why, but I just walked out there and I stood there and I said, are they right here? And she said, yeah, they're all around you. And I was like, okay. And I was like, hey guys, I know this is probably your house, but like you're freaking out these little kids and like that's a bummer. And like I won't tolerate that. We can live peaceably together, but you cannot enter their room anymore. No more scaring my kids. And then I was like, we good? Like I was just like, does it look like? And she was like, I don't see them anymore.
It never happened again.
And then it never happened again. Like that was, and it was full, like my husband was there. He was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
They're trying to cut our sheets.
Well, maybe they were trying to make a Halloween costume. Maybe they were just near Halloween.
Did they just said people with scissors. They didn't describe like how they were dressed.
Yeah, they didn't describe. I wish I had asked like more questions.
In that moment, though, you're probably like, let me not ask any further questions.
So I was trying in my head to be like, what do I do here? Like, what's the move? How do I not traumatize them? Yeah, like.
I mean, either way, that's terrifying. But like, I was just wondering, like, you know, what was
the aim there?
Maybe they watch Project Runway. I don't know. I think always believe kids with that scenario. So my niece Lenny, my sister gave birth to me. She looks like me. She acts like me. We're absolute twins. Like when I looked in her eyes the first time, I knew that I knew her. Like we're, connected like that.
I love that.
When they live in Seattle and I'm in Los Angeles, and my sister called me and she was like, she had not been telling me this because she knew what I was going to say about it. And I was right, as I usually am. And she goes, Lenny has been waking up at 3 a.m, the witching hour. And she stands up and she points and starts screaming in the corner of her room every time. And it happened over and over and over and over and over. And Brittany hadn't told me this because she didn't want me to be like, well, yeah, she's me, obviously. So I had a trip coming up. I brought my little kit and I went up there with my sage and my juniper my stones. And I did a whole smudging of her room. I cast it out. I was like, no low vibrational entities have power here, only light. Also leave her alone. Similarly, like did that.
Yeah.
Never happened again. And my sister has it on video when I was smudging her because I like lit the sage and went on, I'm doing it around her. And she was just like laughing and being so weird. And she was like 2.5 at the time, right?
And she's like, let's go.
So then a few months later, we're decorating the Christmas tree. And again, she's really young at that time. Like couldn't have been even 3 yet. And she points at this ornament and she goes, that's Grandma Julie's, who's our mom, who she's obviously never met. And my sister was kind of like hesitated and was like, how do you know that's Grandma Julie's? And she looks at my sister and goes, I'm Grandma Julie.
Oh, shut up.
Those are, I'm obsessed with those
my goosebumps have goosebumps right now.
No, and the thing is, I am a carbon copy of my mom, and she has a lot of, who knows for certain, but another time I was like scrolling on my phone because she's obviously this generation, they love to look at phones, and there was a photo of my mom from when she was young, and Lenny stopped it and goes, Grandma Julie. And I looked at my sister and I was like, have you ever showed her this photo? And she was like, no, she's never seen that. So yeah, believe
she's Grandma Julie, man. Yes.
Yeah. I would say.
Believe kids. They know.
I know. Or when they start talking about their like past lives, they're like, I died in a war. You're like, excuse me.
Yeah. I love that shit.
I am obsessed with that. When they'll be like, I was on the Titanic. And you're like, what?
Tell me
those
everything.
Listener tales are like our favorite listener tales.
So you would be like, what was the moon like that night?
I have a weird kink about Titanic. I need to know everything that happened and everything every person felt. So I spend many hours. I looked up the moon and like needed to know.
Yes.
Did you ever hear the one about the kid who jumped out of the Twin Towers?
Yes.
No, I don't know that.
I've read that one.
So that one I think was a hometown from MFM. So the parents were talking. He was like 3 or 4. And he was like, I don't like airplanes. I fell out of this tower. And like he described New York and they lived in like, Michigan or something totally random. And he fully gave an account of that day as a toddler.
Wow.
But then when he grew up, he can't remember it.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
And that's always the case too. It's like they remember everything when they're kids and then it just leaves.
They say when you're younger, the veil is thinner. I think it's until you're like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Kids my veil stays pretty thin, but
okay. We keep our veil thin.
I need to ask you guys about these cases really quick. I'm sorry. Don't hate me because this is like such an honor and I'm so excited to talk about people who know this stuff.
Hopefully we'll remember.
I know.
I need to talk to you about the Idaho 4. So,
yes.
If you don't know, so I went to Washington State, which is 15 minutes from Moscow, Idaho. So I'm very familiar with this area. And Brian Koberger went to Wazoo. He went to my school, but he was in the doctorate program, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, shit.
So if anyone doesn't know, this happened in November of 2022. And there were 4 University of Idaho students that were living at a house. They were brutally murdered one night. It was 3 girls and 1 guy, but there were 2 other kids that were staying in the house also. It was this whole horrifying thing. And for like 3 weeks, we're all like, we want answers because it's, a small town. And it felt like the police weren't getting anywhere, but they had been tracking this guy, Brian Kohlberger, who has since been arrested. And I believe in May is going to be going to court for this crime. I need to know if you think he did it and what your thoughts are on the trial coming up.
This case, I know like the facts that happen. I haven't been following it super closely.
I think from what I've seen, I'm very comfortable saying I think he did it.
They have DNA, don't they?
Yeah, they do have. They have a lot of things against him. He also and it's judging someone by like look in their eye or something like that is never the way to do it because people can look that way and still not.
Yeah, he has murder
But
eyes.
there's something about him that just seems like
off,
dead. Like there's just dead behind that eye. Like it's
damn.
But I don't know a ton. I know that I was really concerned with them bulldozing the house before the trial actually got underway.
Oh, did they do that?
Oh my God. I think that was
a big
probably more
deal.
for optics of the community because everyone was feeling so traumatized. But yeah, they bulldozed the house. And I think that is so disturbing also.
Yeah.
Like,
I get why from like an emotional standpoint.
Yeah, sure.
And how I can't fathom living in that community or, God forbid, being like a family member or a loved one of these people to have that thing standing there and like be able to see it every day. But it's like, I'm just worried that they could, because I feel like there's always evidence that
you can always go
found.
Back.
And I'm worried that that's gone forever.
Yeah.
We've heard so many cases where they go back and they find something that they, didn't find like the first 13 times they've searched somewhere. So
yeah, and if something's off with that trial, they don't have that fail-safe to go back to.
Oh, I think that was a huge oversight and mistake on their part. I think the only piece of DNA evidence they have was on the sheath of the knife.
Yeah, I was just going to say the sheath.
It had DNA on it, but there's so just so he did it 100%.
Yeah.
There was his phone. They were tracking him for months leading up to the crime. He was doing the same route at early hours in the morning, going to these people's house. I think for me that he reads as someone who thinks that he was smart enough to get away with such a random, horrifying crime, that is why that's his motive. He was studying criminal law or some type of something in the crime world. And he was going on, people found his Reddits and he was going on and doing and asking weird questions about like, what would your reaction be if you heard about this crime, or like, how would you get away with this, or blah, blah, blah. So I
forgot about that. That's the
foreshadowing
thing
over there. Okay, dude.
I think he did it. But my thing about this case specifically, and I guess all cases in which the very clear murder sticks to the I didn't do it, it's so hard for my brain to reconcile that someone can do something like that and then just look at a group of people and be like, I didn't do it. His defense, it's going to be our mission in this case to prove to you without a doubt he didn't do this. And I'm like, no, but he did do it. And innocent until proven guilty, but I just can't believe he is standing by.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I mean, typically people who can commit such heinous acts are sociopaths, and a huge sociopathic sort of trademark would be to be completely pathological. So
and they're able to just remove themselves from reality.
I also think
no, I didn't do it.
It's one more way to fuck with people to be like, no, I didn't do it. So like, who did? You got it wrong.
Yeah.
When they know they did.
Not to tell you to do your job, but I would love it if you guys do cover that case and like do a deep dive. I would love to listen to it at some point.
We want to actually cover that case. We got a lot of requests to do it right off the bat, but we were like, we wanted to watch it start playing out and make sure everything was collected and everything was kind of more clear before we touched it. Because I was like, I don't want to like open wounds or cause speculation or any of that stuff in the beginning. Like, right off the bat, we were like, we don't want to.
It was really
speculation, but now that things are coming together,
once the trial plays out.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially later in the year after the trial. But if you need to consult someone, again, Reddit, 3 a.m, I basically know the ins and outs of the case. The 2 other ones that I have to ask, because I ask everyone, who do you think killed John Bonet?
We can't say because we'll get sued.
Yeah.
And that tells you everything you need to know.
Wait, why would you get
that case? Horrifies me.
Wait, what?
If I were to speculate, I would say maybe they have speculated in the past and had a talking to about that, but no.
You know what it is? I won't say who I think did it because like I'm not out here trying
We'll
to
tell
get
you
sick.
off air.
Yeah, okay,
But
great.
I do think the intruder theory is a difficult one. They've had trouble proving it.
It's also just way too hard to believe that somebody broke into the house that night and spent that much time there.
But there's a possibility that happened.
Exactly. Allegedly.
This is all alleged. Well, and he was convicted, so I guess this isn't alleged, but the last thing I would ask, do you think that Scott Peterson did it?
Yes.
I think 98% yes. There's like a 2% doubt in my mind.
I think documentaries have of recent times started to be more coming from one side more than trying to give an unbiased point of view on cases. That's why I get a little nervous with documentaries lately on like Netflix and such.
Same.
I think a lot of them have an agenda, and I think that could have been one of them.
And it can sow seeds of doubt for sure. I think, I would say like 98% sure that he did it.
Damn.
So
I have sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, with the Luigi Mangione, because a lot of people are saying that, what?
Go ahead.
Hot or not? Just kidding. Smash or pass? No, because there's so many people that are like, courtroom, when they draw the
transcripts?
Or,
the
artists
drawings.
Dictionary.
Yeah, there you go.
Acted out. That are just strictly because they're looking at the different photographs of this person. They're like, he's not the one that did it. He's doing there's a bigger thing happening here. He's taking the like just from the one photo that they had of the guy. They're like, his jawline, his lips, his chin, the nose. They're just like, no. Where do you land on this?
I'm pretty confident it's him.
Okay.
But I can see where the the idea to speculate came from, because when I first saw that photo and I saw who they arrested, I was like, huh. I was like, really?
It's not the same, like related maybe, but I don't know. And then they're like, he dumped the backpack in the park. But why would he all of a sudden have that with him?
There's a lot of strange stuff. There's that one.
Yeah, and
there's
I think it's by
to
design.
Theorize and speculate about.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think it's by design. So
some...
I too think it's him. I was just on Reddit about it, about his interaction when the police found him in the McDonald's and how that went down. So the reason I think it is him, he had the manifesto on him, and
that's what I think too.
So it's like, there were all the correct pieces with him. How perfect.
I mean, I don't know.
He also had weird shit with him, like the Monopoly money and all that.
Yeah. So, but I do agree. The photo, it's the eyebrows. If you've ever lived through the early aughts, you know how hard it is to grow eyebrows back. Okay. Yeah. Any woman our age knows what the deal is.
So, it takes more than a couple weeks.
So yeah. So like that does freak me out. But I feel 98%.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it's weird that we're in 2025 and like photos like that, like CCTV footage, is always grainy still. I'm like, we can get pictures of like different galaxies, but we can't just clear that one up a little bit.
Google Earth, you can make out like somebody 10 yards away and like their shirt that they're wearing, but
exactly. Real? We have a telescope that literally sees into like other galaxies.
Yeah, we got to do a little better with the CCTV.
But we can't just clear that little grainy footage up a little bit.
Yeah.
I just saw yesterday, I feel like I've seen this image before, and me even describing it, maybe you have. It was a Google Earth images, the car drives around or whatever. And a guy it looked like a, dirt path, whatever, back road, was walking with a bike. He was holding it. And there was clearly a body covered, covered in plastic really tightly, like garbage. Like if you Google guy on bike, Google images body, I'm sure you'll find this. And it is the
holy shit.
Like not haha funny, haha awful,
but just like what the
it's
fuck?
The funniest thing I've ever. He's just clearly, and he looks like really sketchy. And then he had a body, so I think that was the sketchiest part. I would say was the body in the bag for me. But
usually
for sure,
yeah.
For me, it's always the body. That's
I'm like, that is so weird.
People set those things up too on Google Earth.
Yeah, just to like fuck with people.
They'll find out where that car is, and they'll like. I've seen somebody like set up a whole scene where like one of them is hitting the other one with a bat.
Unfortunately, I don't think he was. I do believe that people do that. But for me, I think that was an authentic oopsie. And there was no other cars around. So he was like, this is the best way to transport
He had
this
that
body.
Look about him.
He had the look.
That's the thing.
The
look. Find this.
The look.
I know. Now I want to Google this again.
Imagine being the driver. He's just like, well, shit. Gotta capture that.
And he just keeps going. He's like, Google Earth.
I got places to capture.
Does this thing go any faster?
Okay, this is a stupid question, possibly. I thought those were like Waymo cars that weren't didn't have a person in them? There's someone driving those
I
around?
have zero idea.
Oh,
I think somebody drives them.
I've seen someone driving it before. You've never seen a Google Earth car going down the road?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's got a pretty sizable camera on top of it.
Well, I've been spending a lot of time in watching Love After Lockup, so haven't been in the streets lately.
I mean, it's hard to miss it. Like you, it's not like it's just got a GoPro. Like
okay,
it's a little GoPro.
It's a full like.
You'll know it when you see it.
It's got height to it,
like a whole setup.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, quickly before we wrap it up, we need to know about your books. Tell us about your books. What's going on? What's the latest?
Thank you. So the Butcher and the Wren has been out for a little while now.
So good.
Just released The Butcher Game. It's going to be coming out in paperback this year, which I know a lot of people are waiting for. A lot of people like paperback.
Oh, I love paperback.
We love a paper. You can shove it in your, it's easier. So that'll be coming out later this year. And another book will be on its way. I can't say when or what it will be, but another book is in the works.
I've been reading it and it's so good.
Yeah.
But I can't say more than that.
And then hopefully in the near future, an adaptation is forthcoming.
Oh, wow.
We just don't know exactly how.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Yeah.
Did you always know that you were going to be a writer, or was this just something that, like, what haven't you done? You're an autopsy artist.
Truly.
You're a writer, you're a podcaster, you're a mom. Like, what haven't you covered?
Well, thank you. You make me sound amazing. But yeah, I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always loved books. I've been a bookworm since the womb. I mean, that was one thing my mom always did. If we went to a store, you couldn't always get something, but you could always get a book. Like, no matter where we were, if there was a book that I wanted, I could have that book. Like, from the beginning. I do that with my kids now. I'm like, you can't always get like a stuffed animal or like a toy, but if there's a book you want, you can always have it. And so I was always reading. I was always writing my own stories. I was like one of those people in like, the early AOL days with like the chat rooms that would have like this is so embarrassing, but whatever. I'm almost 40. It was like those like RP games, like those RPG games. It was like role-playing games where you pretend to be different characters. Yeah, I was that kid. So
you're creative.
I used to go in chat rooms and pretend to be a 20-year-old when I was like 8. Like,
see, ASL.
Kind of like that.
Yeah, I used to do that, so I guess
kind of
it's
like
similar.
that. Similar, just like for nerds.
Role playing.
Either way, you're RPGing,
Yeah.
So I was always I was in theater. I was just like always that kid. Like always that kid. And so I always wanted to write a book. I just never thought I had like the stamina to write a whole book. I wrote like little short stories here and there. And then this one just came to me when I was pregnant with the first one, The Butcher and the Wren, came to me when I was pregnant with my twins. And I was having very vivid nightmares and dreams. And
well, maybe that's why they see sheet cutting people.
Right? I think
Could be.
It definitely like absorbed, I think, a little bit the
creepiness.
But yeah, so since then, I would write books all day, every day if I could. I love it.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So awesome. I'm excited to see the forthcoming.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
That's all.
I think that's going to be it. I mean, obviously, again, people, your show is much bigger than ours, so I'm sure they know who you are, but tell them where they can find you on Instagram.
Or on Instagram at Morbid Podcast.
Yeah.
And then they're linked in the bio. So,
And you can find us anywhere.
Yeah, find us.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on the show, for Zooming in. Are we on Zoom?
Yeah, you guys
are zooming in.
You're our first Zoom interview. So yeah, thank you for being
awesome.
flexible with us.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
thank you for having us. We were stoked when you invited
we're
us.
big fans of you guys. So this was like a big deal.
This was huge.
Yeah.
Oh, we're so excited. And we'll let you know should we ever be in the area, because we need to get our Salem on at some point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got a Salem and we got a Lizzie Borden.
Hell yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it.
That's all.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Babe, you're going to see the power of women, like, disrespectfully.